We are just about to start recording the meeting, just for the benefit of everyone online and in the room. This meeting will be recorded for the purposes of being able to take minutes, and so that when folks are coming to vote on anything over the next week, they will be able to see a recording of what was discussed. So just so that you're all aware that the meeting will be recorded starting like now or possibly a minute ago. Welcome everyone to the first Union Council of 2022. It's great to see you here, and I know we have folks joining online as well. It's great to have people with us. This is, let's just briefly run into what Union Council is. So Union Council is essentially the second most powerful decision-making body we have at the Students' Union. It's the highest decision-making body that is made up of students. The only sort of committee or anything above that is the Board of Trustees. Board of Trustees does technically have the power to overrule council decisions, but only in incredibly rare circumstances, such as if council have voted to do something that would be completely financially ruinous for the Students' Union. I don't think that's ever happened in the time that I've been here at Aston. So essentially, this is the most the kind of highest level of student decision making in the whole organisation. How council kind of works, people can submit motions, that is things that they want to be discussed and things that they feel should be part of the policy or the work of the Students' Union. At the meeting, we will then have an opportunity to kind of debate and question those motions and help refine those into the kind of policy that we want. It's also an opportunity to scrutinise your elected officers against their executive plan. You'll hear more about this executive plan very shortly, but it's essentially a new way of being able to monitor the work that we're doing as a Students' Union and making sure we're kind of working cohesively together. So it's your opportunity to say, okay, the kind of priorities that your executive officers are working on, are they the right priorities? Are they doing what they told you they would? Should they be doing something differently? Union Council is in a slightly new format this year. You'll notice that our voting is not going to be taking place within the meeting itself. In our efforts to kind of continually make our democracy more accessible and approachable, the meeting is focused on discussion and kind of debate around the various topics. Voting will then take place online after the meeting. Voting will take place for the course of a week from next Monday the 24th through to Friday the 27th. Just for those of you who aren't as familiar with the kind of ways that these democratic processes work, essentially anything that goes to a vote, that vote will pass if more than 50% of those people who vote on it vote in favour of it, excluding abstentions. Any vote needs at least 50 votes to be cast for it to be counted as quorate, which basically means for it to be a legitimate vote. We can't just say, oh, well, 2 people voted for it. So we need enough people to vote over the course of next week on anything for those decisions to count, essentially. You can vote for, against, or sort of abstain. Abstaining is there just to say, well, this isn't something I have an opinion on, or this is something that I don't feel should be me making this decision. So just a note, as you sort of will be aware, Council is running in a hybrid model this year, so that we can facilitate both people coming along in person and people joining online. Please, a reminder that just as those folks who are in the room will need to raise their hand before they just speak, likewise if you are online, please make sure you raise your hand and keep your microphone muted unless you've been invited to unmute your microphone. You can also ask questions in the text chat, of course. Please be aware that we can't guarantee we will get to every single question, be that from in the room or from online, just as a factor of time, but we will obviously try our best because this is all about you and making sure your voices are represented. On that, Union Council is for everyone. If at any point you're not able to hear, or I'm running through things too quickly, or you have any other kind of accessibility need, please let us know. Raise your hand, let us know by the text chat, and we will answer your question as soon as we can. Likewise, after the meeting, if there's anything you feel, oh, actually it would have been more accessible for me if you ran it slightly differently, please feel free to get in touch with me, chair@union.aston.ac.uk. Just realised I ran into this without actually introducing myself. I'm Michael Pritchard, I'm your union chairperson for this year, so my role is to chair this council, kind of help oversee some of our democracy, and I also chair the committee of all our elected officers to make sure they're all doing their jobs, basically. So, cracking on. The first order of business is an approval of a newly appointed trustee. So as I mentioned, the Students' Union has a board of trustees. The 4 sabbatical officers sit on those boards along with student trustees and external members, so people from the Birmingham community, people from around the country, who we think will offer a kind of insight into how the Students' Union can run in the sort of long-term strategic business. Any trustee who's appointed isn't an official trustee until council has voted to approve them, or if you really want to reject them. There was a recent trustee appointment. Atul, are you able to sort of briefly speak about the new trustee?
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Atul Rana. I'm your Students' Union president. So Arun Shankar is one of the candidates that we interviewed for our trustee, and he works in Diana Awards as mentoring program coordinator. He stood out because of his approach towards accessibility and his experience of working with the young people. And he's also a student of the city, which basically made him stand out from the other candidate, and that's why we appointed him.
Fantastic, thank you. Now, if anyone has any questions about this appointment, anything they'd like to sort of clarify, further information. I am not seeing any questions from the room. I'm not seeing any questions online. Fantastic. So this will, as mentioned, this will go to a vote. One of the things that will be open for voting on next week will be the approving the appointment of Aaron as one of our new trustees. Excellent. Briefly then, the sort of formal stuff, approving the minutes of the previous meeting. That will also be something that in every meeting we always have to vote to approve the minutes of the last one. Again, when you come to vote over the course of next week, you will see the minutes document from our last meeting, which was, I believe, the 15th of June. It's the very last one of last academic year. So you'll have an opportunity to read those minutes and vote your approval. Likewise, I have received some apologies for a few people who couldn't attend today. Apology from me in that I can't remember the names off the top of my head, but those will be in the minutes of this meeting. So, the first sort of significant order of business is matters arising from the previous meeting. We have a number of motions which are due to either lapse or be renewed. So these are motions that had been voted on by Union Council, voted into policy over the last couple of years. As we've got a new model for Union Council, any kind of things that have been voted into policy will need to be renewed essentially every 12 months. So these ones, because we're just voting on whether we continue to believe these, and the sort of in-depth discussions and debates have been had about these in council meetings over the past couple of years. We're not going to go into depth on all of them now, but the motions that you will be asked to decide whether you approve their renewal are decolonising the curriculum to be in line with the Students' Union's core values, a non-compliance with the prevent duty, students not suspects, no to sexual harassment, a Students' Union policy on freebies and giveaways, the United Nations Sustainability Goals and Aston University, and a solidarity motion with disabled students at Aston. So the full motion documents for those will again be in your online form for voting. So you'll be able to see if those are motions you feel you want to renew. Any further questions at this stage? Okay. So, we will go right into the first new thing for this academic year. So, as I mentioned, part of the role of Union Council is to be able to scrutinise your officers against the executive plan. The executive plan is something that we introduced in our refresh of the bylaws, which is the two relevant bylaws are outlined here. The work of the executive will be outlined in an executive committee report. Essentially, in that period before term starts, our whole executive team have come together to figure out what our kind of shared priorities are, to give a sense of direction to our planned work for the year. This is then brought to this first Union Council for the student body to approve, to say essentially, you know, have the officers got the right ideas? Is this the stuff we want our officers to work on? And then at subsequent Union Councils, we will be updating Council on our progress against those different priorities that we've put together. So again, per the bylaws, there are some shared priorities for the whole executive committee based on the kinds of things that people had in their manifestos, some shared priorities based on sort of current union policies, and some specific priorities kind of protecting and supporting the voices of marginalised students. So this has been an exercise that we've kind of worked together as an executive committee, that's all of your elected student officers, worked together over the last few months to identify where we kind of have shared areas of focus and shared things that we want to work on. Just to be clear, this doesn't mean, you'll see, I'll introduce in just a second, the kind of 8 core priorities that we've landed on for this year. This doesn't mean we won't do anything else. It's just these are the central things that we feel we really want to work on and we want to be held accountable to. You'll also note that each of those priorities has a number of officers assigned to them. Again, that doesn't mean that those officers are the only ones who can work on those things, or even that officers will only work on the things they're assigned to. It's just to give a degree of accountability so we know who is kind of taking a certain degree of lead on each of these items. So, the 8 priorities as we have developed are, that's just what I was outlining, leading the way on accessibility, providing more support and training for our clubs and societies, increasing our support as a students' union for international students, supporting students in the cost of living crisis, supporting students' well-being and mental health, being more accountable as a students' union, improving the democracy and accountability of Aston University, and supporting marginalised and underrepresented student demographics. When you come to see the full executive plan document, you will see this table with the 8 priorities that we have produced and the officers who are going to be working on them. And you will also see a number of more pages where we describe some of our, my lord, sorry about that. In the subsequent pages, we will describe some examples of how we might go about fulfilling those apologies. We'll describe how we might go about fulfilling those priorities. To be very clear, those further details in the latter half of the document are examples. They are descriptions of things that we might feel like we might want to work on. We are not necessarily able to commit that every single one of those will be done. What we are asking Council to vote on is those 8 priorities. That these are the things that, as a team of executive officers, we feel we want to work on this year, but ultimately as the student body, it is your decision whether you think we've got the right idea or not, essentially. Apologies, could we just make sure that anyone who is joining the meeting is muting their microphones unless you are have been invited to speak, just we were getting a little bit of feedback there. So, these are the 8 executive priorities which the elected officers have built together. I'd now very much welcome any kind of questions or comments or thoughts from the floor, from those joining online, and our officers will be able to answer and give you any more detail on what these priorities are and how they would intend to work on them. I am not seeing any questions come in from in the room. I hope that means that everyone likes these priorities and what we kind of feel we want to work on. Sorry? Yeah. Anything coming in from online, Kat? No? Okay, that's fantastic. So this set of priorities will be one of the items that you'll be asked to vote on over the next week. Just again to sort of say, these align with what we as a student body think that our elected student officers ought to be focusing their work around. That's accessibility, clubs and societies, supporting international students, cost of living crisis, well-being and mental health, being more accountable as an SU, democratising the university, and supporting our marginalised and underrepresented students. So, if there are no further questions, comments on this, we will move along to reports from other bodies. So I'm going to be calling on Atul again to give a brief report on what the Board of Trustees has been working on since June.
Hello everyone again, who just joined us. I'm Atul Rana, I'm your Students' Union President, and I'm here to present the Trustee Board report, which is essentially what we discussed in the last Trustee Board meeting. So the first one is the budget of this year has been agreed, and we are very pleased to announce that we have increased our student engagement and student-focused budget. And for example, we have two new roles, which is international coordinator and well-being coordinator, which are introduced in the team, essentially to develop the student engagement area. And the second update is the new vice chancellor, a very huge update. We have a new vice chancellor within the university. He's very ambitious. He has a very bold goal. What he wants to do with the university is quite exciting for us. That's something that we had just discussed in the trustee board meeting. And third update is we are currently facing recruitment challenges within our department. And for example, there's a very good example here that for media and marketing role, we have advertised our role for 1 month. We have got 4 applications, but nobody turned up. So, but good news is we have advertised role for the graphic designer, and we have now a graphic designer who is starting on Monday. So really excited for that as well. These are the 3 points that we have discussed in the trustee board meeting. And my purpose of telling you these things is essentially the transparency among the students' union and the student body. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for that, Atul. Again, obviously, if anyone has any questions, any comments on what the trustee board has been working on, anything I want kind of further information about of those points, yes, go for it.
You spoke about new dedicated roles for international students. Are you focusing on one particular role that is being taken up, or there are a couple of roles that will be assigned? You know, we have one international student officer already. So is it something related to that, or is it something new that you have right now?
Just for the benefit of those online, the question was regarding the new international coordinator role, whether this is a single role and what their relationship with the international students officer will be, and how they will kind of help support that officer role.
Just to answer the question. For now, the role is a single role. Our staff member, who is Preet, is the one who holds this role, and it is essentially to support the part-time student officer that we have, to work alongside, to collaborate, and to understand the international student needs and to work on it. But the ambitions are to expand the team, because we recognize that there is a need within the international students community, which a single particular person belongs to a particular community cannot fulfill. So we are quite ambitious about it, and in future you might see some more expansion in terms of international role and in terms of the student officer role as well. Does this answer your question?
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Any other questions, thoughts? Excellent. Anything from online? No? Fantastic. Okay. The next item, motions for debate from the Executive Committee. The Executive Committee haven't submitted any motions to this meeting. Motions for debate from other student members. So a motion has been submitted by Tejaswini Madne and Sonia Sunil. I understand that Tejaswini and Sonia were unable to make this meeting. If anyone is able to discuss... Oh, hey, you're right here, yeah. You told me you had a lecture. I wasn't even looking for you. Fantastic. Would you be able to come up so you can speak into the microphone and folks on Teams can hear you? So glad you mentioned.
Hi everyone. So I'm
Oh, yeah.
Tejaswini. I'm Tejaswini, and I have submitted this motion along with my friend Sonia Panchal. So, right. So first point is regarding the healthcare provision at Aston University. So as everyone is aware that Aston has a high number of international students coming in every year, and the number keeps on increasing post the pandemic scenario. And we have a lot of students in our master's programs, like maximum number of students in every master's program are Indian students or maybe international students. And the cost of our international health insurance is very high. I'm not sure about other countries, but back in India, we spend around 700 to 800 pounds on our health insurance here, so which is a high healthcare cost when we come to UK. And also, this point, I'm sure it has been raised many times. Everyone is aware, but I would just like to emphasize it on once more, that we do not have a local or an in-house GP at Aston University. So that is a huge hassle. Like from my personal experiences, it's a huge hassle for international students who are not aware about the UK scenario to search for a GP off campus and go there and register. So people are staying, some people stay close to the university, some are staying far away, so it's really a tedious task to do. And so one more point is we have a lot of sports teams at Aston and a lot of sports persons representing Aston University, maybe in swimming, basketball. So me and my friend Sonia, we are part of the Aston University basketball women's team. And drawing from recent personal experiences, which some people here are aware of, a couple of our team members sustained injuries, including me. So we were not able to find any immediate medical care, including like basic first aid or no sports physio for us, for the teams. That was one of the issues. And yeah. So now Union Council believes that all the students here have a right to good quality medical care without any delays, especially in terms of emergency injuries or any untoward experiences. Also, Aston University has a responsibility to look after the health of all members and its community, including students and staff. So, advocating for immediate medical health care, first aid for students, community members, council members, including the staff members. And Sport Aston, which is our committee for the sports person, does not currently provide adequate medical support for those who suffer from injuries while using the facilities. So apart from the team members who are part of the different sports team for Aston, there are other types of memberships, including the social memberships or the interested memberships. So lots of people use the sports facilities, and we do not have like basic emergency first aid healthcare. So council resolves the students union must lobby Aston University to get a GP practice on campus on a high priority basis. I think most people will agree that this is the need of the hour. The students union must lobby Sports Aston to have a trained physiotherapist and a medic available to all players at the Woodcock Sports Center Stadium. So during practices and during tournaments, so currently like basketball tournament is an ongoing thing, and we have a lot of home games here. So as it's a sports, it's a team game and a contact sport, so a lot of injuries are possible, and we need like healthcare on the go. And these services should be available to the Aston University community on a 24/7 basis. It's self-explanatory. Yeah, thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for introducing that motion, Tejaswini. I now, per the bylaws, open the floor. If anyone wants to speak against the motion, they will be allowed a few minutes to speak against the motion. If no one wants to speak against the motion, then we can open the floor to any questions for Tejaswini about her motion, anything you want to kind of ask her to address or amend. Yes, yourself.
I'm not against it. It's just on the fourth point.
Yep. You're right to come up here, actually, sorry. So, we've got the microphone that needs to be picked up on. Yeah. Hopefully that'll work.
So I'm not against any of those. Can you please take this like that? Yes, this one. So in the fourth point, for getting a local GP, you can just go to the website of any GPs. You can put out your zip code there, and they will let you know whichever the nearest GPs are. You can fill out the form, and you can get the GP appointment. Like you can get the GP registered. And also for urgent medical care, there is an option for urgency as well. If there's an emergency, there's an option to go and book an appointment for emergency.
Okay.
So I think you can do that.
The question there, just in case that wasn't picked up online, was that the person was not against the motion, but just wanted to point out among point 4 here, with regards to local GP practices, that they feel it's an easy thing to register on the sort of local NHS website, and there should also be options there for getting urgent medical care via that process.
It will show you the nearest GP, whichever are.
Okay.
That is correct, but just the point is that the registration process and the wait period is like 2 to 3 months. So until my GP personally is not registered, I cannot like treat my injury on a priority basis. I cannot go to the GP. That's the point. It's for registration. The time period is 2 to 3
Go
months.
and register there, right?
Yeah,
At the
yeah.
GP. Does that also take 2-3 months?
No, like after you submit the form to the GP, it takes around 6 to 8 weeks or more than that for the GP to be registered and for you to get your NHS card and for that then use that. Yeah.
Okay. So Tejaswini was just clarifying that the particular issue raised under point 4 is about the length of time taken after applying to register to the GP. That those processes for applying to be registered with a GP are straightforward, but then the time it takes the GP to register and process all of that information is quite excessive and means that people aren't getting care as urgently as they need. Paddy? Are you all right to pop over here? Just because I think this mic is the only one that's picking it up on Teams. Sorry about this. Technical difficulties. Yeah, just...
Hello. So I'm Paddy. I'm the interim disabled students officer. My question, well, first of all, whilst I can't speak on the specific, obviously on the specific experiences of international students in getting GP appointments and registering with GPs. I do know that there is, in my own experience, a lot of long waiting lists. But yeah, I totally solidarity with that. I was wondering if we could ask Sports Aston to come in and report what they do have, and if that measures up with. I mean, I don't know if BUCS, which is the body that, for those of you who don't know, is the body that regulates sports at universities. I don't know if they mandate that every union should or every university should have a minimum level of aid of treatment facility available. But if that is the case, I was wondering if we could see if the two things match up, because obviously as a union, what we can do in terms of resolving this motion, or rather in terms of resolving this motion, we need to look at what we can do. And I think the first step would be to understand, or for the union to understand, what the current situation is in an official capacity, if you like. Yeah, that would be my main comment.
Yeah, we can do that. We can ask BUCS if they have any mandate. But personally, I'll just speak for basketball. So I asked the president and the vice president of the basketball club regarding the presence of a physio or a medic on site. So what information I got was that if this is the lowest league for universities right now, what we are playing, inter-university. So when we go a league up, then there's a provision for a medic or a physio for the players to be available. But personally, I do not have any information if it is there right now. And also I spoke to my coach. So the coach is here since 16 years. So even the coach is aware about these issues and wants to, lobby for these causes. Yeah.
So it's specific to the Sports Aston doesn't have facility-wide.
There's no mandate as such, as far as I'm concerned, as far as I know. But there's no mandate, but there should be. Yeah. That.
Excellent. Okay, I'm aware we have a couple more questions in the room. I just want to jump to questions that have come in online, if that's all right. Okay, we have a comment here. I just wanted to ask about the use of walk-in centres if care is needed immediately. Has this been explored? Tejaswini, there's a comment asking if the use of walk-in centres for immediate care has been explored and whether that's a viable sort of alternative. Are you on? Yeah. Sure.
So unfortunately, I experienced an ankle injury in the first week of coming here, and my GP wasn't registered yet. So after 2 weeks, my swelling was still there. So I decided to go to the nearest hospital that I found. It was Birmingham City Hospital. I went there and I told them that it's an emergency. that day I had to wait in the emergency for like 2. So then I waited for another 2-3 hours. I didn't get my turn, so I came the very next day, and the next day as well, I had to wait for like 6 hours to get an appointment with the GP. So I don't think even if it's an emergency for you, they'll be able to resolve it right away. So yeah, it was really bad. Yeah.
Did you want to come back on that point, Tejaswini? Yeah, please, and then I'll take a couple more questions.
I'll just explain everyone regarding my injury experience also. So it's been like 10 days. I suffered an injury in basketball practice. So I have a swelling on my knee and an ankle. It's been 10 days. So I tried to search for a GP or an on-campus first aid, which I couldn't get access to. Then I also went to the Birmingham City Hospital, where obviously I had a wait time of 4 hours, and so I had to go back next day and wait for another 5 hours. And I was sent back with painkillers because apparently I could just walk on my 2 feet, and the swelling hasn't gone down. Like, I need to get a scan, and so like walk-in centers, I don't think they help with like detailed examination for basically, especially for sports persons, because we have to play for a season for another 5-6 months.
Thank you. I've got a couple more questions here. Atul?
I don't have a question.
Oh, you just wanted... Yes?
I'm seeing where the conversation is going, and I can see there are 2 aspects of this conversation. And I am already following up this conversation with the Vice Chancellor and Deputy Vice Chancellor, so I think I might just give an update. So there are 2 aspects, as I was telling, the GP aspect and physiotherapist aspect. I was known about this situation when Tejaswini came to me. So it was in the priority list. And the priority list is about having physiotherapist, which is very much possible in the sports Aston, and the universities started working on it. About the GP is an NHS issue. The NHS is in meltdown right now. So even university want a GP here, they can submit an application, but it's equally depend on the NHS to provide a GP to the university, which I believe should be on the campus. And university also recognize this thing that we need a GP on campus and it should be here, but they can't give you guarantee or any sort of assurance that when it will happen. But I think the need of the hour, for what Tejaswini is saying, is having a physiotherapist in the sports assistant. So if you have muscle pull or any sort of issue, sports injuries basically, they are able to help you right there, if I'm not wrong.
Yes, we have another question.
Not a question, but I wanted
Yeah,
to
sure.
add up to what she said. So since Tejaswini is addressing the sports, particularly to the sports section, out of what my experience is, I feel, for example, I don't live anywhere nearby the university, and just in case if I felt sick or if I'm not feeling well, which has happened to me a couple of times here when I wanted an immediate help or something of that sort, but I didn't know any medical center that we had in the university. Out of my experience that I've studied in India, even every small school has a medical room or a medical center with at least a nurse, if not a doctor, that's available for an immediate care, which I didn't really experience in Aston being such a big university. So I guess this should also be a priority, which will address the larger audience and the entire university, be it a small issue, be it just a cold. Since COVID is still around, I guess that should be added to what Tejaswini has said. Yeah, thank you.
And I think
Yes, thank you.
I would again repeat my sentence that university definitely recognize having GP on campus is a priority, but there's an extent where they can push, and after that it's NHS, which is in complete meltdown again.
I'm going to take one question from Harsh. He's been waiting a little moment. Yes, please do. Please do.
Hi guys, as you know, I'm your international students officer, and I've been serving from past few months, and I'm already aware of this situation. Basically, being an international student myself, I've been through these difficulties that you guys have already mentioned right now. So I mean, it was also on my priority list. I mean, Atul did half of my job already by saying what we are doing right now at the moment. But yeah, it is on our priority list, and at least what Kritika said, even if we cannot get a GP, we will definitely have a medical room that can support emergency situations at the moment, so that it can save you in any emergency or life-threatening situations.
Thank you, Harsh. I saw a couple more hands go up. Were there any more online? No, excellent. Anastasia, are you right to? Sorry. Yeah, it's got to reach this microphone. Is the thing is. Thank you. Sorry about that.
Hi guys. Basically, I agree with all of the things that have been said. I would just like to add one thing that like it's not only sports Aston that like needs a physiotherapist or a medic. It's like all the clubs that they train outside facilities, like they train at the rec or they train to, for example, snow club train like in different locations. So I think in general like needs to be someone to assist on campus, be able from like the sports Aston come to the SU, or like be able to go somewhere in a room and just find this physiotherapist. Because obviously, yeah, it cannot happen only for the sports that they like in the sports Aston when they like 20 more clubs that they just train elsewhere.
That's the reason I said a common medical room will be accessible for everybody, irrespective of the field of
Yeah.
that should be.
Unless you wanted to come back on that, Tejaswini, or jump to Paddy? Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with everything that's been said. I'd just ask that we do something to this motion so that it has action points on it, because we can pass this motion, but all it will say is we all agree that this is a bad situation and we should have a better situation, but unless we put some action points on it, there won't be any sort of like mandate for anybody to do anything.
So the action points currently are for the Students' Union to lobby the university for both a GP practice and a physiotherapist. I'm very conscious that we won't be able to have an action point of a motion which says to get a GP, because that's not ultimately a decision which the university takes. But if there are more specific action points you would like to see rather than those, then I'm sure Tejaswini would welcome suggestions.
I would open that back up to the motion proposer and the general student body, but my own thinking would be things like a specific officer to ask, or somebody's, if we want to make it a specific task of a specific officer, that officer should go and ask students, sports Aston to report back on for instance, the thing that I was talking about earlier, what they do have at the moment, and if that matches requirements, if they exist. Things such as that. If there are things that the student body wants the union to do, it needs to be put in specifically what they want us to do, and then we need to decide if we want to ask specific officers to do those things.
If you've got anything to respond there, Tejaswini, or I'll jump to Adora. Yeah? You happy? Okay, Adora, go for it.
I'm not 100% sure have we mentioned that, because I need to jump out the room just now. But basically, on the sports Aston point, from my understanding, I don't think we have a sports therapy yet currently. However, everyone who's working sports Aston should be first aider trained. So if any of them is not first aider trained, then they shouldn't be working in sports Aston. So I don't know, will that be enough for what happened on injury rise or everything else? But that's something that we can confirm on our side, that anyone that work in sports Aston should be first aider trained, because I don't think sports Aston is allowed to employ anyone that is not first aider trained in a sports centre. In general, it's not allowed, I think.
Thank you for that one. Atul, go for it.
I'll again mention that a physiotherapist and a first aider are two different things. That's what I discussed with the Vice Chancellor and Saskia. And when Paddy said about the action point about the officer taking a kind of responsibility, I think we are already halfway down in making university realize that we are in very bad situation in terms of students being on campus, getting hurt, and finding absolutely no help. So I think I would be more than happy to take it more further within the university and make sure that I don't want to give any timeline, but we have something on university so that if any muscle pull like situation occurs, the students don't have to rush to the A&E and don't find any solution.
The point is that we need it on the motion so that anything's. I would say open it up. I motion to open it up for the student body to say, does anybody want to add action point to this?
That's what this discussion is. Yeah.
But then I was just responding to us all as in rather than saying, oh, we're already doing it. We need something that allows people to be accountable.
Yeah, just briefly, I'm going to jump to Tejaswini in just a second, just briefly to clarify the process of this. So after this meeting closes, Tejaswini will then be kind of offer the opportunity to make adjustments or amendments to the motion before voting then opens. So as the proposer of the motion, it's essentially Tejaswini's call as to whether she wants to add stuff. Can you clarify on that? Tejaswini, you wanted to jump back in?
As far as you raised the point regarding sports Aston should not be able to employ people who are not trained in first aid or physiotherapy. So I got to know there are a couple of physiotherapists working at the Aston gym, but then they are only available for people who have taken the gym membership for Aston. But then luckily, one couple of my kind teammates took me to the physiotherapist and I got my injury checked from that physiotherapist. But I don't think all the players in sports Aston are aware that, even I'm not sure if the sports persons can get their injuries checked by the physiotherapist at the gym, or is it just there's no clarity on that, even after being a team member.
Yeah, Adora?
I know that we have some physical therapies in the gym, but that isn't available in sports Aston staff. However, they should be all first aider trained, so if anything that medical emergency comes up, they should be able to give you the emergency stuff. And if that raised to a certain point, they will be calling ambulance or send you to a hospital. And also they need to fill in an incident report of what happened during the session or anything that you have reported to them that they treated. But we are in progress of looking to have sports therapy in for the future, just because we know that these kind of stuff happen and the clubs and society or even anyone who use sports Aston that is Aston student will require this kind of thing. So we're in progress of looking at that.
Can I seek clarification on that?
Yeah, quickly. No, just conscious there's a question coming online.
Oh, yeah, sure. So there are first aiders who work for the gym but are only available for the gym members, but you're saying that those people, because they are trained in first aid, will respond to people who have a sports injury who aren't
in
members.
The gym, they have the sports therapies, physical therapies.
Gotcha.
Everyone working in sports Aston is first aider trained. They're not allowed to work in a sports centre without first aider trained.
Okay, so they're two separate. They're two separate things.
That's
Okay.
trained. And everyone who works in sports Aston or even other sports centre will be first aider trained. So anything come in emergency, they have the qualification to deal with anything like that. But not further development, for example, like therapy stuff, is different level.
It's been a while since I've been a member of sports or used sports Aston, but do students pay to use sports Aston before paying to be members of the gym? And if so, is there a reason why the physiotherapists aren't also available to them?
To use the gym.
So in which case, my question would be, why are the physiotherapists only available to the gym members if students already pay dues?
Well, yeah, but for example, a club, they pay to use the club. They don't pay to sports Aston. Obviously, this is more a complicated question that is company-wise. So I think we'll take it like it is.
Employed by the Aston gym separately.
Right.
Yeah. So the thing is, we have to separate.
So they're not even allowed to.
So I think, yeah. So that's the different, but
persons
it's something that we
pay to the individual sports clubs to use the facilities, not to sports Aston.
Yeah, so we are in progress looking through sports therapy for clubs specifically, because sports Aston is technically a different business.
Yeah, right. Okay. I'm just going to jump to this question that came in online, which is whether it would be possible to use physiotherapy students supervised by professionals to help with the issue. Do you have a thought on that, a response to that?
I'm not sure.
Nadine, go for it. Yeah, I've got the mic. Sorry.
Hello. So yes, I guess in theory. So UCB have sports therapist students who run clinics with their lecturers supervising. So that is actually available to anyone. But I realise what we're talking about is on campus. So I see no reason, but it's quite a new course as far as I'm aware. We do have a society that's sports and their name. Pardon, yeah, Sports and something Society, and forgive me for forgetting the rest of their name. But they're quite new, so it's something that we are looking into, but we don't want to make any promises without understanding what it is that these students can deliver and what we might be able to deliver with them. But there's no reason why that couldn't be something that we could look into if we have students that are studying who might be able to offer some clinics with supervision, because as I say, I know that UCB do that already, but our course is quite new, so this is all quite a new thing for us to look into to try to perhaps facilitate here, if that helps.
Thank you for that, Nadine. I gather that has answered that question. Okay. Just a note. Okay, perfect. Thank you, Ismail. That is noted. I am not seeing any further questions on this at this stage. So as I mentioned, what will essentially happen is after this meeting, Tejaswini, you'll get an opportunity to amend or adjust the motion if you feel that you want to based on some of the discussion we've had. And then that will go to a vote. Adora? The new society is called Aston Sports and Exercise Medical Society, is this new society that Nadine was referring to. Excellent. So I think that will close the discussion on this motion. As I say, subject to any potential amending or adjusting, that motion will then be among the things you are able to vote on over the next week from Monday 24th through to the end of that week. Thank you very much for that discussion. So the next point of the agenda, we are coming towards the close of the items on the agenda. We don't have any guest speakers or any other business that was submitted, but there was some urgent business that arose after the general deadline for motions by Anas Mazar regarding the accessibility of furniture in the lounge. Anas, I gather you're on Teams. Are you able to unmute yourself and speak on that? Yep, your audio's coming through, yeah.
Yeah, well, what happened with this point was that in the lounge, I don't know when it was quite recently, when I went up to train, sit down somewhere or eat something, there's all these really high tables that those people in a wheelchair can't really reach or have anything or have different whatever. I think that is quite a big concern. Big students who have this can't get me that far. They're stuck downstairs where the good place used to be, and that's the only place that is actually fit for purpose for them. I think we should just consider that wheelchair users, other than myself and on behalf of all of them, they can't exactly go and sit right at the top of a really high table. It's just impossible. I just think it's quite easily solvable, but I just thought it should be mentioned and agreed for everyone who has a wheelchair.
Thank you, Anas, for raising that. I believe Paddy wants to respond. I also was informed that Adora had a comment on this, but I will go to Paddy first.
Hello. Again, in my capacity as DSO, first of all, hi, Anas.
Online, they're asking for Anas to repeat and you mute yourself because they couldn't hear.
Okay.
Cool.
All right, apologies. It seemed we had some technical issues there. Anna, so would you be able to briefly repeat that question for the benefit of those folks who are listening in online?
The issue that I was raising was there's really high tables in the lounge that disabled users who are in a wheelchair cannot actually physically reach them to sit down with their friends or have food from the lounge or anything. There's 4 benches that are feasible for them to sit at, but even if those are full, where are the wheelchair users actually going to sit? Because most of the lounge is full of high tables where there's no accessibility for them, and I think that is something that we can change quite easily. And I just think it should have been considered before the furniture was put there. I hope that was clear for everyone.
Thank you for that one, Anas. I think that we got through that time. Paddy, please go for it.
Cool. Yeah, thank you, Anas, for that. The university continues to be crap at accessibility, but the good news is at the moment that we have secured a external audit of the entire campus, including the Union Building, the university, the library, everywhere. That will we've also reviewed their what their process is, what the methodology is, where they're going to look and what they're going to look at. They will be reporting back, I think, they'll be coming in mid-November.
The intention is that the accessibility audit report will be done by Christmas. That's obviously subject to any potential delays.
And then that the outcome of that report will be a number of actions and recommendations that the university will basically be obliged to follow through on. They will be categorized into sort of like urgent, do this now, do this next time you refurbish, do this whenever anybody brings it up, do this when you have the money and time. If this isn't noted in the report, I can definitely, I'll do it before the report comes up. I will make a note of this to make sure that the auditors don't forget to look at it.
Fantastic. Thank you, Paddy.
Is that okay with
Anas, are you able to check that sort of answer your question to some extent? Yeah, perfect. Did you have some? Adora, I believe. I can let you on quickly, Anas.
I think I get the university point, but I think this is more SU specific. I understand the audit, but I think that's a really good step to work on and get the whole campus as accessible as it can be, and that includes us as an SU. I think that's a really good step forward.
Fantastic. Thank you, Anas. I know Adora had a quick comment regarding specifically the lounge furniture. Yeah, go for it.
So, Anas, basically, like this morning, Max and I have moved around some of the furniture to make it kind of look more similar to before. So basically put some chairs on like two of the tables. So hopefully that will sort out the issue that we like now urgently have. But in the future we will talk to commercial and make sure that like there is space that is accessible for like student, any people that needs more space or anything like that. So yes, something that we'll keep we will have a conversation with commercial.
Paddy, come in very quickly and then
another point of clarification. Another remit of the audit will be how we use the space and where we do things. So Michael and I have both been very concerned in the past that, you know, there's only the one elevator to get up to the second floor of this Union building, where a lot of the space is, where the bar is, where the restaurant is, and that's, you know, an unreasonable that isn't an adequate level of accessibility. So the auditors might come back with, like, definitely some of their solutions will be like, because the other thing is the auditors will propose solutions. They're qualified engineers that specialise in this sort of thing. A variety of that solution will be, or might be, how we use the space. So what furniture we use, where we put it, where we like have the bar, I guess, where we have like the cafe, the layout of the whole thing. So hopefully that'll be that will really help to resolve the issue. And if it doesn't, you know that we won't let it go.
Thank you, Paddy. Were you wanting to jump in again, or? Yep.
Sorry. When I heard Paddy say about that, basically, I'm just going to add something on top of that, because Disabled History Month is coming, right? Yeah. We are doing a video that Anas might be aware of also, that about how accessible buildings are. So we're doing the SU, and then we're doing the library and also the main building, how accessible buildings are. So except the audit that the university is doing, internally we are also doing that, as we understand that there's a lot of issue, and we kind of want to help in general to see what the issue are and kind of come up with solution. So yeah.
Yep, thank you. That's one that I know, Adora, you, Paddy and I and you will kind of continue to discuss, and hopefully by the next council we may have some something to show with regards to that. Any kind of further comments or questions on that point, Anas, or I'll have those responses sort of addressed what you wanted to raise?
I think that was really good attempt over from working and try and rectify that. I think that should be big credit to them.
Excellent. Thank you. So that is the final item of main business. The very last thing I want to mention, if I'm not in the PowerPoint. There we are. So just before we wrap up the meeting, just to raise people's awareness, we on November 2nd will be having the West Midlands Police and Crime Commissioner come into the Students' Union for a panel. Simon Foster is the West Midlands Police and Crime Commissioner. That's an elected position. That's kind of local elections, and his role is to kind of provide scrutiny and accountability of the West Midlands Police Service. So he will be coming into the Students' Union for a scrutiny panel to address any kind of concerns that students might have around police in Birmingham and the kind of police operations of the West Midlands Police. All students are more than welcome to come along to that meeting on the day and raise any kind of issues or concerns or questions they might have directly. But we also recognise that people might want to, might not be able to attend on the day, might want to submit things in advance, or might want things to be raised anonymously. So we have a form set up so that you'll be able to submit any kind of questions or comments you want to ask of the PCC, who, again, their whole job is about sort of scrutinising and accountability of the West Midlands Police. That form, we will make sure that is being promoted on social media and so on, and we can try to share that in the chat of the meeting afterwards. So that will enable you to submit things to us that we can then make sure are kind of raised, and we won't be naming you when we raise those. So if there's something you want to be raised without being identified, you can submit things that way. Otherwise, that draws the council meeting to a close. Thank you very much, everyone, for coming along and sharing your sort of thoughts and voices. Our next meeting will be on Thursday, the 1st of December at 2 o'clock. Oh, one moment. There might be a question coming in. Can we attend the meeting with the Police and Crime Commissioner? I believe we are intending to run it in hybrid, potentially being streamed via our social media channels, and you'll be able to ask questions there. Keep attention to our social media channels, newsletters, and so on, and as the details are confirmed, we will be publicising those. So yes, that meeting will be taking place on November 2nd. Any questions you'd like to submit in advance, please let us know. Otherwise, our next council will be on Thursday, the 1st of December. So as a reminder, if there are any motions you'd like to submit for that council meeting, please submit them. Submission will be open until a week in advance. And just the final reminder, the voting on all the things we discussed today, so the approval of the trustee, the renewal of motions, the executive plan, and the new motion on healthcare for Aston students. Voting for those will open on Monday. That will all take place online, and voting will close on Friday. So please do watch out for that and make sure you vote. Otherwise, thank you all very much for coming along today. Oh, God. You don't need to clap.
Well, I was clapping the union.